finish screwing around. I'd rather not be late for the first day of class, you know?
Mom? For the record, I wouldn't have made it through my first year with any other roommate. Second year best year?
Sure. Honestly, I'm glad you're with me.
I'll be back a little later because
Sleeping and waking up in the same room, same space, chatting or sitting in silence. Good morning, good night. Made it in. Welcome back.
Wait, I thought the festival
Before I met you, I couldn't say those things to someone else.
Clock's ticking.
But after a year together,
Man, phone calls
I
are a
can.
joke. Seriously?
Seriously.
Everyone, please get into a line. Quickly, thank you. It shouldn't take us very long, so please cooperate.
Why are you...
I lost my first husband in a civil war. I met Rick at an evacuation site. He said we should live somewhere where our home couldn't be destroyed so easily.
Before we get started, I just want to allow my guest the opportunity to introduce themselves, basically tell everybody where you're from, what you do, and also tell us who is your favorite movie director and why.
Ooh, okay, all right. Hey, guys, my name is Eduardo Vildasol. I am an actor, writer, and producer. I'm currently based in Dallas, Texas, but pretty much go wherever, and my voice sometimes goes across the ether to other places as well, as I work remotely as a voice actor sometimes. Favorite movie director? God, okay, you are killing me here. You know what? I'm gonna say one movie that I just recently watched that I really enjoy is The Favorite, and it's by Yorgos Lanthimos, and I absolutely just love his creative vision and the way that he lets his actors really just kind of take up space and just really go full tilt with their work. It's just exciting to watch, honestly. I think he's got a brilliant mind behind him, and has a really fantastic point of view in his work.
For sure. I have to definitely check out some of his work and be able to see if I agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
For my for the director I chose, I basically just chose off the last movie I just watched recently, and that's Scrawl.
Okay.
That was on Netflix. So I chose Tyler Perry. I like
Nice.
watching Tyler Perry films because I just like the fact that he takes a lot of Black African American stories and put them on the screen and stuff like that. So I kind of like seeing that. And I know not a lot of his movies are like classics, but I feel like a lot of them are good and very good rewatchable movies. So for me, I say Tyler Perry's a good.
Dude, absolutely. And I mean, the thing is, he stays incredibly busy. He's so prolific, right? And you say there aren't any classic. I mean, Medea is a comedy classic. I was gonna say everybody knows her.
Oh,
So
I would personally consider it a classic, but I know some people will be like, "Oh, I haven't seen those movies or anything." So I'm like, okay, maybe. But in my household and people I know, those are all classic movies, man. People quote those movies. It's like, okay.
don't worry, I've absolutely tuned in before. It's I'm right there with you, buddy.
If I had to choose like a different director, it'd probably be like maybe Spike Lee. I like some of his stuff, but there's sometimes they be a little bit out there, a little bit. Probably is it Michael P? Michael Keel? Well, I always get their names wrong. The one that makes the scary movies.
Yeah. Like Get Out. This is excuse me. This is us.
Yep.
No, This Is Us. Excuse me. Forgive me. I'm a little tongue tied today. It's a little late in the evening, but yes, I'm on board with you, man. I know what you mean.
I love his movies. They're pretty good. I like the fact that he came into a whole movie genre that a lot of people don't like really mess with or know how to really do, and he's actually making pretty good films. I really like horror movies. I like the ones that kind of really make you think, but I also like your good slashers, like Halloween and stuff like that.
Oh, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Same. Halloween is a classic. It's getting into spooky season. I mean, I know it's basically summer, but it's spooky season already in my heart. And so, so I will absolutely be bringing in the horror movies pretty soon in my own rotation.
Okay. Have you watched anything recently?
Of the horror genre, just watched Nosferatu. It just came out. I'm trying to think what else. A few other things. Shining is one that I'll occasionally sort of rewatch. Kubrick sort of classic there. That's almost always a given. I'm trying to think if there's another one right now. especially one of like an anime variety. Um,
Hmm.
You know, I haven't seen it yet. I think it's about to be released, but The Summer Hikaru Died is kind of in the horror genre, and I believe it's about to be on Netflix. It's coming out this month, so I'm very excited to check that one out because the manga for it was pretty cool. It's basically about two teenage friends that live in rural countryside in Japan, and one of them goes missing and comes back about a week later, but he's not exactly who he seems to be. So it's, yeah, kind of one of those like, is it a not? I'm probably.
Is it an alien type of thing, or
kind of? You're like, wonder, is it an alien? Is it a monster? Is it a skin? You know, it's kind of one of those things where like it's not exactly him. I don't want to give away too many spoilers with it, but it's the manga itself is pretty fantastic. So I'm excited to check out the anime, which should be dropping sometime this month.
I definitely gotta check that out. I've recently watched some good scary movies. Some of them interesting, but recently it was 825 Forest Road.
Oh, okay, all right. What's that about?
Basically it's about this house that disappears off this map. It was something that happened in this house, and they've been all trying to figure out where this house is. But it actually, you know, at the end of the movie, it's the house. Never mind. I don't want to give too much of away, but
yeah, no, I feel you on that. I was gonna say you can't give all the spoilers, but I'm intrigued already. I was gonna say this sounds interesting.
It's actually pretty good. Then you got Woman in the Yard. That was a good movie to kind of see depression kind of being shown to you in a different way. I thought that was pretty good. I can't wait for Megan to come out for the new Megan. The first one was pretty good, so I really want to see how they push it. It looks like they're going to be having her fight at like the government version of Megan, like, so that's going to be interesting.
Oh, she's gonna have a better sort of how would you say antagonist or sort of, you know, counterpart to her.
And then that's kind of making me feel like, is it still staying in the horror genre, or is it kind of moving out to like more action-y type thing? Because it's like, I don't know if they can still be horror. Like, you know what I mean? Like, unless they're out there just killing people randomly. But
yeah, it's a good question. It's definitely, I think, changing the genre a little bit. But you know, there's different flavors of horror, you know, genre films out there. So you know, I think it's finding its own niche. You know, and obviously it's doing well that it has a sequel now coming back. I'll be honest, I still need to catch the first one myself. But one of my I think it's one of like my childhood fears, just like creepy looking dolls. So I'm like, it's one of the, like, I remember watching like Chucky as a kid and being absolutely freaked out just by like the doll. And so thinking of Megan, I'm like, I can kind of see it's like that uncanny valley where you're like, okay, this doll's a little too human for my taste.
yeah, and I mean that was all AI. But I say I'm more like Villatrix dolls. I probably fucked that whole word up. Ventriloquist. Yes, them dolls really I cannot stand those. Dolls look way too real to me. But like the Chucky doll, I could probably have one of those in my room and wouldn't have no problem. But maybe the Annabelle doll, I could have that one, because when I did my research, that's not even the doll. That's the one that's supposed to be the haunted. It's like the cotton. I
know it's like a Raggedy Ann
doll.
Yeah,
and I'm like, oh, so they just created a whole new like type of thing just because it looks a little bit more scary. I could keep that doll. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that one. You know what I mean? Of
course, yeah, provided it's not the actual haunted one, right?
Yeah, see, I wouldn't press my luck with that. Like,
me neither. I've got a healthy, I have a healthy dose of skepticism, but also enough respect to know that I'm like, okay, there's some mysterious things out there I don't want to touch. I'm good. I'm fine. I'm happy in my own lane.
I don't need to mess with my soul and have to do anything with any of that. Nope.
Exactly.
But kind of moving on to what you've recently watched, playing, and any new vacations or anything you want to recommend.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, I would love a vacation right now, man. Let me tell you.
I feel you.
No, it's been good. It's been busy. I'm an actor across TV, film, particularly right now. I also do a lot of voiceover work, specifically dubbing for anime, English language, and some new kind of releases that have come out have been for the show Windbreaker on Crunchyroll, also owned by Sony, and as well as 2B Hero X, Psychopass season 3 and First Inspector. All of these kind of come out in the last month or so. So it's been a busy past couple months, but it's
Gorilla
been a
Girl
good season. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, the Gorilla God's go-to girl. It's a super fun show. It's kind of more of a kind of lighthearted sort of creature feature in the sense that, you know, all these sort of peoples and students live in a fantastical world where they're blessed by powers from a particular sort of animal god, and each character kind of has their own respective sort of powers in association with that god. And so my character, his name is Shin Kwa, and he is blessed with the powers of the jellyfish god. So he's got some really cool, you know, electric sort of abilities, and he's a very cool, calm sort of demeanor guy. And yeah, he's kind of he's kind of a fixture in terms of one of the teachers at this particular institution that some of the students go to. But yeah, it's a pretty fun one. It kind of brought up that sort of, just for fun, one day I think we were talking in the booth, like, you know, if you could have any superpower, what would it be and why? And I was like, you know what, actually, after seeing his powers, I'm like, I would very much want like power of electricity. Like I kind of think of Storm a little bit from X-Men, but this guy's a little more jellyfish centric. Yeah,
I feel you on that one.
yeah,
I think his abilities are interesting when you first see him in the anime, and he's basically got these tentacles that come out, and then, because at first I thought they were going with eel. I thought he was going to be like electric eel at first.
right.
But then when they said jellyfish, I was like, oh, okay, I guess I can understand. And then you get to see him use his abilities twice in the anime, if I'm remembering correctly. And the second time, I think he stretched out the tentacles and had them kind of follow these people and stuff. So I'm like, okay, I can see why he's a captain. Like, you can see.
I know, yeah, he doesn't show it all right away, but yeah, he's got some power to him. And it was so funny. I was joking with the director for that show. Her name's Caitlin Glass, phenomenal director, talented voice actor. Her resume is just like goes out the door in terms of just how long she's been in the industry. But we were just having a funny discussion one day, and I remember mentioning when I was like 15, I was like swimming in the ocean, and I swam face first into a jellyfish. And oh boy, let me tell. Thankfully, like I had goggles on, but like the lower half of my face got stung, man. And let me tell you, I was gonna say, I know people think, oh, jellyfish, they're harmless. I'm like, you don't want to mess with their sting. So.
See, I've never been stung by one, but I remember seeing like this video on TikTok, and all these jellyfish had like come out of the water, and they were trying to scream at this little boy who kept trying to go in the water and play with them. They was like, "No, don't go over there." I'm like, you wouldn't even have to tell me that. I'm one of those people who, like, if it's too many fish in the water, I probably won't even get in there. Like,
bro, I'm good. I know. Give me a pool. I'm okay. I'm happy to look at the ocean, but I like being in a pool. I feel you on that.
But for me, recently, I've been watching a lot of King of the Hill.
Yeah.
No particular reason, but I know recently one of the voice actors died, I think, for John Redcorn, and it kind of I don't know if that made me kind of just want to rewatch it or what, but yeah, so far I'm up to like season 5. I think it's 15 seasons, and I will say the show is funny. It takes a while for me to particularly to like understand some of the humor, because it's not necessarily my type of humor. But after a while, but I feel like if you understand comedy at all, which I used to study because I wanted to be a stand-up comic, the show is very hilarious. Like, it's probably one of the funniest shows I've seen, and it's just being on the conservative side type of thing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, and it's you know, I kind of grew up watching that show, and I grew up in North Texas as well, and in that show it's a little more rural than what I was used to, but there are certain elements that I watch of that show, and like from that show, you know, when I watched it, that I'm like, oh, it really harkens back to kind of Texas culture a little bit in some ways. And yeah, no, Jonathan Joss, I believe he was a main actor here who had recently passed, you know, rest in peace to him. But just phenomenal cast in general. And yeah, absolutely was just such a cool show to watch. And yeah, I think it's, you know, I think it's definitely, it's gotten its resurgence in its own way. I know that there are people who wonder if there's another opportunity for it to have a second iteration in some sort of capacity in the future. You know, I don't know what that would mean in terms of casting or things like that, but you know, absolutely, man. You know, it was on the air for how many years? I would have to honestly look it up, but it's, it
I
becomes
think it
kind of
got
part
like
of the
15
zeitgeist.
seasons, so it was on
Yeah.
there for a bit. So
Yeah, I know. It kind of becomes part of the zeitgeist, so it's something that, people always go back to and reference. But I hear you on that. The humor is it's very like it kind of plays beneath the surface a little bit, and it's just so clever in its own way.
yeah, like some of it, I'll be like, if I was from Texas, I probably would pick up on a little bit more, or if I was probably a little bit more conservative, I'd probably pick up on a little bit more of the stuff they'd be saying. But some of it would be hilarious, and some
Oh,
of the way the characters act be crazy, because I feel like we have one character big changes from Peggy. From like, if you watch the show from like, I say the first 2 to 3 seasons, like before she falls out of the plane and like hits the
yeah,
ground. After that, I feel like she just becomes this narcissist person. She could do
yeah,
anything. You can't tell her anything. But
exactly.
before that, she seemed more reasonable. But like after that, it just was like she can do everything. Like Spanish is horrible, but she believes she's fluent.
You're so right.
It's hilarious.
Oh, that's so funny, man.
But going right back to our episode, for my first question I wanted to ask you is,
Sure.
what got you interested in the entertainment industry, and when did voice acting become something you were interested in?
Sure. I kind of tell people I'm like my entrance into the entertainment industry began because I was a kid that just had so much energy, and my mom was like, okay, we got to have another outlet for him. So it was immediately into like acting classes and theater camp, and started acting kind of when I was a kiddo, and went on and off kind of throughout high school and stuff. But yeah, now it's it kind of went through theater and then into TV and film, and voiceover is kind of a area or profession I would say I would started in maybe like 2021 2022. I happen to live in Dallas, so and there's it's kind of been the hub for at one point Funimation, which is now Crunchyroll, owned by Sony, and so we have our studios out here. And growing up here, I didn't necessarily know that Dallas was sort of, if I can give it a nickname, a bit of a dub hub in some sort of ways for a lot of these shows coming over from Japan and South Korea and China. And it, and then, as I kind of got involved within the industry and I got signed with an agency, the casting notices started coming my way. So I would go out and audition. And then just little bit by little bit, I kind of got out there and, started switching tracks into voiceover. And, there's definitely some, the mechanics change a little bit just because of the nature of the medium, right? So it's a little different from working on camera or like if you're working on a stage show, but yeah, it's the same thing in and of itself, that it's very, the craft, it's all about the craft of acting. And I think one of the things I've learned from specifically with voiceover is, especially for dubbing in anime, I think you really have to sort of just have that spirit of saying yes, and like you kind of just got to go in and dive in with it, because the reality is you'll get called in for a show sometime, and you maybe like the day before or a couple of days before that you'll get notice of this, and you do as much research as you can, but sometimes you don't know what you're going to see when you go in the booth. And so you'll have the screen in front of you that's playing the animation, right? And you're hearing it over the headphones, in the original language, which is usually Japanese, but sometimes again it's Korean or Chinese, or excuse me, Mandarin. And then you have the script right here on another screen, and you'll get, the director will kind of give you one for free where you watch it in the original sort of language, you're listening to it, you're watching the mouth flaps especially. That's a really big sort of technical element of dubbing specifically, is being able to do that while still keeping the action and the inner life and the acting present in there. And then you give it a go, and then they do playback, and then you get notes on it and you redirect again, and you can you do a lot of work within a very short amount of time. And one of the realities of working in VO is just that it just all moves so fast, and it's largely because of deadlines. There's a lot of content that is now being produced by studios, so they all have to get it out in a timely fashion. But studio time, as somebody who's working in in podcasting, right, and working in studios and whatnot, studio time's expensive.
For sure.
So yeah, it's being able to kind of work on the fly and make strong choices and collaborate with people right in the moment. It's definitely a really important sort of skill set, and it's a muscle that you definitely grow working in VO over time.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's the long answer. I was gonna say.
No, everybody got their whole way they got into the business and everything. So I kind of like hearing their stories and how they do it because everybody's entrance seems to be different. Nobody has the same path. Because literally, I was talking to I think Kyle Phillips last night, and he was basically saying he kind of did it from the other way around, where he started out as an audio technician and then just got interested in it in that way, and then went from that route. So I haven't seen a lot of people go it from that route. Like,
dude, yeah, no, yeah, no, you're right on the money there. There's, no one prescribed path, and it's something that I think when I was younger, I guess I was always trying to wrap my head around, okay, well, what's sort of, the common denominator, right, for people doing this, and you realize, as you work more and more within it, I think one of the really cool things about this industry is that people can kind of come from all walks of life, all backgrounds, all disciplines, and stuff like that. I have friends of mine who have worked in the medical field for a really long time, and then they were just interested in doing acting, and managed to get booked, on really big shows, because of their talent and their hard work, and and it becomes kind of an asset to them. Or I have one friend of mine who he's like in a corporate tax office or something like that, and then he does dubbing on the side, and does voicing for video games, and he's phenomenally talented artist. And but yeah, everybody's got their own sort of way in, but
I like to do that, kind of still have a main job but do like it on the side. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think that's the reality for most artists too, and I appreciate, I think, when people are open about that. For most actors and performers and artists, it's you're very much living, it's a contract by contract sort of basis with every job that you're on, and so there is a lot of ebb and flow within that. And at the same time, we also live in, I think, in a culture now where everyone's a multi-hyphenate, everyone's doing lots of different things, and that kind of feeds into the whole. I think it's that diversity is an asset. It's never a hindrance.
Yeah. I think especially with today's society and how prices and everything going up, you can't just do one thing and survive. You got to be able to diversify and find something. Because I mean, even though this podcast don't make me a lot of money, it does something. You know what I mean? So you got to do something.
Exactly.
Well, my next question I want to ask you is, what do you find most challenging and rewarding about being a voice actor?
Oh, that's such a good question. The most challenging aspect of it, I think part of it is learning to sort of trust in whatever you're doing and trust your instinct in the moment sometimes. I know for myself, I'm somebody who overthinks, so sometimes I have to remember to be like, step out of your head and get back into your body a little bit, and trust what's being given to you. Remember that the director sees the grander picture of everything, right? And I think in my head, I sometimes think like, I think I want to think like a director, where I'm like, okay, like I'm thinking about how does this fit within the narrative landscape of everybody else, and I have to remember, just if you're present with the work that you're doing and you're like really giving to that, the mic will absolutely 100% pick that up. I've said this before, in other interviews, but going back to a really wonderful thing that Caitlin Glass told me years and years ago was, the mic only picks up what you put down, right? You can't add it. There's only so many filters and crazy effects and distortions and all these things that you can add, and you can do a funny voice, and that can be cool. But if there isn't, if the acting isn't there, if the story isn't there, then it will fall flat. And I think, now more than anything, it's less about can you do a unique voice and more, and can you tell the story? Can you act? And the most rewarding part about it, honestly, I'm somebody who I absolutely love the opportunity to collaborate with people for like all types of people, and that's the best part of it. For me, I know I say, voice acting is kind of a little bit of an isolating experience, because sometimes it's just you and the director and the engineer, and still there's a lot of creativity and a lot of great collaboration happening in there. But it's still a very broad and how would you say? It's a very broad and engaging community of voice actors, and a lot of us engage in, through, the virtual sphere of, social media, or, meetups and things like that too. But it's an incredibly supportive community, and yeah, for me, getting to collaborate with other really hardworking, passionate, intelligent, talented people, it kind of fills my cup in a way. It makes me want to keep going, you know?
For sure, for sure. One thing I've noticed, like doing these interviews and stuff with voice actors, it seems like you guys have a very collaborative community. A lot of you guys play sports together and stuff like that. I find that to be pretty cool, especially when I heard about like there's like a Blue Lock team that actually go around and play soccer and stuff. So I'm like, oh, okay, all right.
Oh yeah. No, they're absolutely into it. I cannot play soccer to save my life, but I will happily cheer them on from the stands.
That's pretty cool. I was wanting to ask some of the voice actors for Haikyuu, are y'all out here playing volleyball? Because I would love to see that. That would be pretty interesting for me.
Oh yeah.
For my next question, I want to ask you, one of the main reasons I wanted to bring you on is to talk about your work in Kaiju number 8.
Yeah.
It's actually probably one of my top shows right now, and one of the main reasons is because I like the fact that they have an older main character. It's not your 12-year-old, 15 trying to save the world. We actually got somebody like in their high 20s to early 30s, and I'm like, yeah, we still have dreams too out here. I don't know why people think we don't. You know what I mean? But absolutely. I just want to basically ask you, how did it feel being a part of this, and what were some of your favorite moments working on this?
Oh, it's so cool. Like I said before, you know.
And also, we're gonna have Sean Ginn coming on soon. So sorry.
Oh my God. Oh, chef's kiss right there. No, he is such a brilliant creative and just a warm, generous soul. Truly, you're gonna have a blast talking with him. And I, you know, and he's director for the show and was just absolutely grateful to be brought on in any capacity. And my character's name is Itakura, and he works essentially kind of within the task force there to basically wrangle the kaiju. And yeah, it was just such a fun and cool show to get to just lend my voice to for a little bit. You know, I agree with you 100%. I think one of the really big compelling, you know, elements of like, you know, the main narratives of this show, it's watching people who like, you know, you see especially the protagonist who, yeah, he's kind of been beaten around and, you know, battered up, and, you know, he's kind of had his stumbles and his falls, but he keeps getting up and trying anyway, right? And it's those things where it's like, you know, yeah, absolutely, like, you know, light, you know, it's the path of the hero, the protagonist, is not just this straight sort of line. It's ups and it's downs, and I think that resonates so much with people because it feels more true to life, more authentic to actually, you know, what it's like trying to kind of battle your own inner kaiju or the ones out there outside of you, you know, metaphorically speaking.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's such a cool show, and I'm just so glad that it's gotten such an incredible reception in the way that it has, because the talent on that show, you know, Nazi Tarsha, Caitlin Barr, Landon McDonald, Ben Stegmaier, Celeste Perez, I could go on, just all incredibly talented and very deserving folks.
Yes, I mean, I'd love to have them all just come on and kind of just talk about the first season. I know the second season's coming out, and I was looking up because I was trying to figure out, because I know your character when I was reading the manga has some moments, but I couldn't tell if that was a second season thing or maybe a season 3 thing.
Okay.
But I know the recording and everything is done, so I don't know if that's something you can say if you're gonna be in the next season at all or not. But
my friend, I'll be perfectly honest. I do not have much to report on that end. I will absolutely say though, my aspirations, I would love Itakura to be in there in the game and doing some kind of being a part of the action. So we'll have to see. I'll cross my fingers with you.
Can't wait to see, man.
Yeah, absolutely very excited for it too, man. I hear you on that.
I think it comes out in a few weeks, so whew.
Yeah, just around the corner.
Do you think there's any misconceptions people have about voice acting?
I think a little bit. You know, and I think maybe these are some of the points that I've kind of touched on before. You know, I think it's, I think sort of the older person, I think maybe kind of one of the older sort of pitfalls is thinking that it's about, again, it's what are sort of the weird sounds you can make with your voice and things like that. And, you know, those are fun technical elements that you can certainly add in if they complement, you know, the story and the genre of it, right? But, you know, again, it just comes down to your ability to be able to tell the story as an actor, and that skill set of being able to take direction and really pull on your, pull from your imagination, and what's being given to you in the moment. It's very much again, you don't have a lot of time to sort of kind of prepare and sometimes work on these shows. When I was like, I remember, for example, when I was working on with the English dub of Psychopath season 3, which just released last week. I was watching previous seasons and even the original sort of that was out for a little bit. But then when you're in the moment, and you're getting direction from, the director, or you're having to rewrite a line because it's not, matching the flaps, and you're still trying to keep the original intention within that rewrite, right? And that, is down to the director in the moment. Sometimes they'll, ask you and you'll collaborate with it. But yeah, it's just kind of learning to pull from that sort of, developing those muscles to be able to, I think, play in the moment and really go with the changes that need to happen there. But yeah, I think I encourage people, it's when it comes to, if they're interested in voice acting and getting into it, watch as many things as you can. You know what I mean? Not, if you're like, I love shonens, watch a whole variety of different, shonen shows within that genre, but also diversify it, add in other things, other elements, it's like, it's a well-balanced diet, never hurts you. Right. And those things will sort of inform your imagination and will kind of develop, those creative muscles within you and that artistic sensibility that allows you to come in, with really strong concepts, and take classes. Even if it's not a VO class, if it's a classic, sort of, 101 theater acting class, even if it's auditioning for commercials, even, I was going to say, you'll always get something out of those classes, but, always be training in some sort of capacity, because it'll just help you learn where your natural strengths lie and where the areas that you need to develop, where highlight those areas and give you a structure to build off of them.
For sure. And that's one thing I like to try to tell people, that voice acting is not just anime. It's a lot of different fields. You can literally do audiobooks, commercials, and stuff like that. So really, if you want to get in voice acting, you really need to do as much research as you can. You know what I mean? And I like to tell people, like, if you want to get into anime and you want to diversify, look at different stuff, just think of all the stuff that you enjoy and like to do and stuff like that and watch. I'm pretty sure you can find an anime about it. Like, there's so many animes about so many random things. I'm pretty sure you can find an anime about it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. It's for me, I'm like, I'll be honest, I'm a big slice of life for anime person. I'm like, I don't know. It's don't know. I love my shonens. I love my heartfelt romantic, like, forlorn love kind of thing. But also I'm like, a nice slice of life, I'm like, laid back camp, man. I'll tell you what, like, it's just, it hits that spot. But then there's, and then I just explore within that genre myself and learn from that, as I watch more things, in that category, right?
Slice of life, you'll be surprised how deep emotional those can be, because it'd be so surprising. Because I watched one where it was like, my roommate is a cat, and like, it's basically just showing their interactions as like roommates and stuff like that. But then when you really get to the core of like, okay, this person is lonely, this cat doesn't have any family or stuff like that, and then you start to be like, damn, this is really deep for like,
absolutely.
It's gonna just be like them living together, but okay.
I know, it gives you a sucker punch right underneath the ribs. You're like, I didn't see that one coming.
Man, that I always tell people, it's another one on Netflix. I think it's Kotaro Lives Alone.
Oh yeah,
that one is so sad. I mean, it's like this little kid. He lives in this apartment complex and stuff like this with these other adults, but then until you start to realize, like, dang, why is this 6-year-old got his own apartment? You know what I mean? They go into all that in his history, and then you're like, oh man. If I ever see these motherfuckers' parents, I fuck them up. It just be so, it gets to you like that. It'd be crazy.
Oh yeah, it sinks its teeth into you, man. You get emotionally invested into it, and it does it in the most quiet, subtle way too. It's fantastic. Yeah. I know it's not the
underrated genre. It's an underrated genre.
Oh, absolutely. Another one of my personal favorite genres. It's a little bit like anything that's kind of like gourmand or like food related. So like Delicious in Dungeon, or I'm trying to think. What's that? Sorry.
Food Wars.
Yeah, Food Wars. I was gonna say British bake. I mean, going outside of anime, like British baking show, and not that man. But I'm like, yeah. I was gonna say when I can tie it into an anime related universe as well. I'm all like, it just makes me extra happy. But yeah, I was gonna say shows like that too. They'll hook my interest as well.
Like Nightmare's Kitchen, like Gordon Ramsay shows and stuff like that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that kind of stuff. Yeah. It's just, I'm like, I enjoy it. I'm somebody who like, I think I'm a bit of a homebody as I've gotten older. So I'm like, I like cooking. I like, gardening, things like that. So I, appreciate a show that caters to those, sort of interests or, those genres, if you will.
Yeah, I had my little stint when I was rewatching all the little I think it was Nightmare Kitchens where you had Gordon Ramsay going around basically helping people refix their restaurants or get them out of the red and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I would say some of those shows they come off as reality, but a lot of times I'd be wanting to take the time and like Google a lot of these restaurants. Like, is this a real restaurant?
Right.
Because like it's to me, sometimes it's just crazy how all these restaurants always have mold problems and no one know how to clean the kitchen and all. I'm like, how are these places still running? Like,
it's like that's not why I stay home and I just cook for myself. No, I kid. I love going out to eat, but yeah, I feel you on that. I know it makes you think twice.
Man, I saw when I was looking at your IDMB that you do a lot of short films. What are some skills that carry over into voice acting, and what makes working on short films so much fun for you?
Oh gosh, it's a little bit of a different animal, but short films, I kind of tell people this straight up with actors as well. It's there's a lot more. It's a bigger animal in the sense that you'll have more people like hands on deck in the moment when you're in the production of it, right? You're gonna have your writers, your directors, your producers, whole camera team, technical crew, hair, makeup, everything like that, and other actors there with you. So you really have the collaboration happening in real time there. The thing about that, is when you're on a set with all these different people and they're you're all have the same goal in mind, which is to film this filming, get it in a can and do it all within a budget and a time limit, right? It's kind of like watching like sort of if you ever see like cogs and gears and wheels turning and every and it's all within like one machine and it's just going forward with all that collaborative effort. That's what it really feels like. And so I think one of the really funny, neat challenges about that is I think just learning about that collaboration in real time, and learning about other people's roles and working hands on deck with people. There's something about the process of being on a set that it kind of binds you to other people just because the work is so intensive sometimes, and that carries a lot of stuff that you get from that. It carries over into VO as well. You're also dealing again with, there are budgets in mind, there are deadlines in mind. You're working with, a director and engineer as well as, the writer and the producer. They may not necessarily be in the room with you, but they still have their input. They are still lending their voices to it. So it's a conversation that you're having with people even outside of the room. And so, I think starting work on those sets, it taught me some of the soft skill sets, I think, to be able to navigate being in the studio booth, and just kind of really respecting where everyone's kind of coming from and, really listening to people, and, trying to figure out, okay, where do you find a middle ground as you're navigating a goal together? Because ultimately at the end of the day, everybody, wants to tell a really good story, regardless of the genre, right? And I say also story even when it comes to commercials too. I tell actors, I'm like, even when you're doing a commercial, even if it's for like T-Mobile, I was gonna say, get this new deal for $30 a month. You're still telling a story in that one. You're still talking to somebody in that story. You still have, what I mean? They're still there. Personalize it as much as you can, within that. But that's a separate note. But yeah, basically that. Yeah, I hope I answered your question there. I rambled a little bit.
Man, you're telling your story. You know what I mean? If you want to ramble.
Well, I appreciate you, man.
But my next question I want to ask you.
Yeah.
You were in the anime Windbreaker, which just finished this last season, season 2.
Yeah.
How did you get that role? And how have you watched the series?
I have, yeah. I absolutely, I love what it's doing. One, it's an incredibly stacked cast, and it's just fun to get to play off of all those guys. How it came to me, just starting with your first question, was through Jeremy Inman, who's the director for the show, and kind of just randomly got an email one day, said, "Hey, can you come in the next day or so to record for this? It's going to be for the role of Suzuri." And so I was like, yeah, that's awesome. So, did my preliminary research, watched the first season, immediately fell in love with it, and caught up with season 2 as well. And I think one of the things that I absolutely love about the show is that it builds its characters and its relationships so well, while still playing with all the, the action and suspense of your classic sort of shonen genre, and yeah, it was super fun to get into. Honestly, there's something kind of cathartic about when you go in a booth and you just get to yell and kick ass,
Man.
and break a sweat. I was gonna say it kind of feels like is it P90X or like there's like a high intensity interval training class that's really popular right now that kind of feels like that sometimes when you're in the booth doing these action shows.
For sure. I know
Yeah.
to be a voice actor, for me personally, I would love to kind of do shonens and probably play a lot of villains and stuff like that, because I just find those stories to be more fun. And I also feel like villains aren't as caged in as heroes, where heroes kind of have to follow a certain blueprint. They can't be too over the lines, because then it's like you're not really a hero, you're more like an anti-hero, or he might be a little insane,
No. 100%. No. I was gonna say it's so much fun. It's so much fun to play the villains and to watch them too. I was gonna say, there's a lot of. I mean, don't get me wrong, the pro tags and heroes are fun. They have their moment in the light, but getting to play a sort of the bad guy or the villain, if you will, especially one that has a lot of complexity to him and they show different sides to him. That's just so much fun. And Suzuri definitely gets that. You get to see his origin story towards the end of his arc in terms of why he is the way that he is, and you begin to realize that the environment that he's grown up in within this particular city, it's very much a kill or be killed type of mentality that people sort of live with. And so it's if you don't want to be eaten by the monster, you have to be the monster, and that's that's kind of the way that sort of Suzuri operates. And so it's getting to peel back the layers on that, and kind of dive a little bit deeper, in kind of what is sort of his emotional engine is just really, really cool.
As a voice actor, which emotion do you find hard to portray with just your voice?
Oh, that's interesting. If I put it down to to a particular emotion, I don't know if I would say maybe it's necessarily if I would say it's like, if I would relegate it specifically to like one emotion, but I think what it is, one of the unique challenges to voice acting sometimes is you get into the booth, and especially if it's your first session with that character, you and the director are already carving out the vocal print for that character, meaning all the ways that they speak. So like the way that I speak right now is how Eduardo speaks. It's my own mannerisms, my own things, I already know it, it's ingrained within me. But when you step into the booth and let's say you're voicing, I was in One Piece one time, doing like just a bit work. And I remember I was playing this guy who must have been like 6'5", like mafia boss type, like really long and lean, but carries a huge machine gun and, is just charging into battle. And he's like chomping on cigars, right? His own cadence and his own expression of things is going to be so different from mine. So I think it's more about finding that I kind of work from the outside in sometimes, and so it's finding that physicality, or finding kind of what that I guess what's kind of driving them. And then once you connect with that, then it's easier to kind of switch between emotional states, right? And you can, and it's fun to explore in the moment. But I would say it's, first session or sometimes couple sessions, especially if it's a character that feels very far removed from who you are, right? It's a very different sort of stamp altogether. It can kind of feel like, I joke, it feels like a baby gazelle that's just been born, and you're kind of finding your legs underneath you just for a little bit. And you're finding it fast too. But yeah, I love that question. Thank you for that.
Okay. So do you feel as an actor you're able to like convey any emotion like without
I,
any
I think
problem?
I think all of I think I kind of subscribe to this particular motto that I learned from my acting coach, and she says, you're a human being and therefore you're enough. And she says, every emotion, everything, every thought, every feeling, it's already available to you. It's just a matter of are we blocking it? Is it in our way, right? Are we letting ourselves get in our own way? Excuse me. And I think that can certainly happen where we kind of get caught in the analytical side of our brain sometimes. But if if you're kind of relying on your creative muscles and allowing yourself to just be present with what is, and you allow them to show up and you don't judge it, and you may have to finesse it. It might not come in the first take, might not come in the second or third take. But you work with the director and it'll come. And then if sometimes if you record something and you look back on it or you watch it and you think, oh man, I wish I could have done that a little bit differently, or if I had actually, it'll come to you later on where you're like, oh, you know what, if I had actually, I remember one time I was like watching playback for a show that I worked on a little while ago. It was for one episode, it was one moment, and I was thinking, I was like, oh, if I had just literally physically relaxed a little more, that emotion would have come. But I was so tense and I was anticipating it because it was the scene where the character's supposed to cry, and it works and it's passable, right? And it's good. And I think we got to take that, it does the job that it needs to do. But as the actor, I'm going back and be like, what can I potentially do differently next time so that it feels more fun for me as the actor. And that by fun, I mean in the sense that you're like, yeah, I'm present with it. I'm not resisting it. I'm taking what's in the scene and I'm letting it flow through me and, letting it come out. And I don't mean to sound so woo-woo or hippy-dippy with the way that I speak, but it's kind of, yeah, I think that's part of I think just the journey is like, is learning to trust yourself more and more and more. I talk with people sometimes who they're interested in acting but they've never done it before, and I say train and study and whatnot, but also remember it's like you're a whole human being. You have all this these experiences that you can pull from, and not to say that you need to be substituting your experience from real life to then put it into the story necessarily. That's one form of that's one method of acting that some people rely on, some don't, but it's not necessary. But just that all these things inform your imagination and can inform your work as an actor, and it's and yeah, it all kind of feeds into it. But yeah, I don't know. I hope that answers the question there. I don't mean to continue to ramble on because I want to be as clear and as concise as I can with it.
Just for a short answer. So when you're like when you're doing like an emotional scene, right?
Yeah.
Are you actually pulling back from like your own past experience from emotion, or are you just like creating that moment for that character?
I really try to create for that character. I don't
So you don't like to draw back and pull up old trauma, okay, I feel that.
No, I don't. I mean, for me, I respect how every other actor works. That's very much there's the element. There's a genre of acting training that does rely upon that, and if it works for some folks, and it they by all means, more power to you. But no, I think that we all have incredibly rich imaginations as people, and I think if you develop that, you can kind of you develop that muscle of empathy, right? And just being present and in the moment, what's happening right there. You're right there in that moment, and it comes. It does come.
Okay.
Yeah.
Out of all the characters that you have voiced so far, which character do you feel is closer to your actual voice pattern?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it's a hybrid. Probably Suho from True Beauty, and then probably Mao from Twilight Out of Focus, but especially more so when I was younger. But I was gonna say but those two are kind of close to my own natural pattern, if you will. There are some stories like when you mentioned I worked One Piece, S-Hawk. Pretty far removed from my own natural voice print, but still fun to do nonetheless because you get to play with the the more extreme ranges of your voice.
Since you just brought up One Piece, were you a fan of One Piece before getting that role, or?
I have watched. I'll be honest. I've cherry picked throughout. I have not fully committed to starting from beginning all the way into the end because I realize that will be. I was gonna say you're embarking on a really long journey, which I'm all for it. But I've not started from the beginning just yet. But I was gonna say I'm very excited. I was very excited to be a part of it. My first introduction was actually doing Walla for the show, and I kind of joke with people anytime you do Walla, which is basically just background voice acting. But in a nutshell, it's One Piece always feels the most athletic. You kind of come out of the booth with 3 or 4 other actors, and you're all just sweating after doing these crazy sort of fantastical scenes that are just very high octane energy all the time.
For sure. And you just said earlier that you played a character S-Hawk, which if you're watching Egghead right now, which they are, he is actually a prominent character right now that we see doing a lot of stuff. So when you say cherry pick, so did you mainly just watch his scenes, or were you just kind of like, who the Straw Hats were, right?
Yeah, I know who the Straw Hats were.
Okay.
I've watched a little bit of everything, and a lot of it comes from honestly having done like watch parties with friends when we were like watching their particular work. I'm a big advocate of like get together with your friends, watch your work, celebrate each other. Even if it's just at somebody's house. I was gonna say order a pizza, have a good time, cheer each other on. And just compare notes too. You learn that way. Too just by sharing in that regard.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But my next question I want to ask is there anybody you want to shout out that has been a good support system for you over the years that has helped you get to where you're at?
Oh my God, dude, so many people. I love that question. It's it takes a whole village, man. I was gonna say, there's yeah, I don't know if I got this from a fortune cookie one time, or if I'm just making it up in my own head, but it was something to the effect of like, for one realized dream, there's about 1,000 unseen hands that helped build it. And I kind of think back to that expression, and it's like there's just so many there's so many people along the way I'm so grateful to, from the directors that I get to work with, like Jeremy Inman, Jonathan Rigg, Sean Gann, Caitlin Glass, producers at Crunchyroll as well, the writers themselves, coaches, my agents, and just the community around it. You've mentioned, and you're right on the money with it, that it's like the VO community really is an incredibly robust and supportive force, and it's really kind of a cool experience to get to be part of a creative community that just kind of shows up in droves for its kind.
And we're winding down to my last 2 questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
But my next question I want to ask you is basically, what show or anime got you interested in animation?
Oh man. If we're talking specifically anime, it was Makoto Shinkai's Your Name. And then I'm trying to think, of course, watch, some of the classics like, Pokemon, Sailor Moon, right? But I think
Dragon Ball,
exactly. Is that your gateway right there?
Oh man, if it wasn't Dragon Ball, I don't even know where it would be, man. That anime literally broke my eyes as a kid, because like I always felt like there was a different way cartoons should be, and when I seen that, I'm like, this is how cartoons should be. Like, this is how I see it in my head now. Like,
oh, dude, absolutely. And it's wild to think, how much anime has just changed, even in the last 10 years, but even prior to that, right? It's I kind of joke with people that it's like our anime in America very much kind of started literally just in watching some friend's sort of bootleg copy of this new anime film that like the AV Club at high school or something like that, and now we're in the era of streaming, and there's so much out there, and and it's cool to see all the ways in which it's evolved in across all its different genres and whatnot. But yeah, no, I 100% feel you on that, man. There's I think one film that I almost always go back to and I always watch, and it's an absolute classic just in general, is Spirited Away. I will probably pop that on at least once a month, honestly. Just because it's I mean, I think it's a bit of a comfort watch, but also it's just, you think about that style of animation. It's just beautiful, right? And it's, I know it sparked a sort of a lot, I guess, sort of some creative obsessions when it came to, animated film and anime in particular. So, you know, you kind of go back to your origins a little bit. You know, you can't help it.
That's funny when you talk about like animated films and stuff like that. A film that I probably watch a lot that's probably animated would probably be Kung Fu Panda. I
Oh,
really
yeah?
like Kung Fu Panda, especially the first one.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the martial arts and entwined with it, but also realize that I do like Jack Black and a lot of the stuff that
Yes.
he voices and stuff because I feel like he really just brings it to life. Because even I think he was in that new Mario as Browser, and
I didn't get to see it, but I could see. I could believe him as that. I would. It sounds like perfect casting.
he was phenomenal. Like he had a part where he has this song, a Peach song, and you get to hear more a lot of. Because I guess he's a rock singer. I didn't realize that. And he
Yeah,
brought all
Tenacious
that
D.
into that. Oh, phenomenal.
I know.
He really killed that movie. To be honest, I was like, without him in there, I don't know if it would have did as good as it was.
Yeah.
But it was. He killed it.
No, for sure, 100%. No, that I think Kung Fu Panda was also one that I really enjoyed, and it was really really good casting throughout, honestly. But Jack Black leading that pack was just it was
Man.
fantastic choice. Yeah.
But my last question I want to ask you is, what ambitions or goals do you have yet to fulfill in the field of voice acting?
Oh my gosh. Oh man, you really hit me with these questions here. This is what they ask on college admissions essays.
We Our interview questions, you'd be like, "Wow, really? Okay."
Dude, no, I love it. I love it. Thank you. Oh man, it's interesting. I think for me, it's like there's a lot of new territories that I would still love to explore. For me, the big thing that I go back to, my big goal is like, one is just working with really like talented, creative, passionate people. Like that's the number one thing that I want to continue to sustain, like in my work, regardless of whether, if it's VO, if it's for like anime, or if it's a commercial, if it's a film, if it's a play, there's that kind of energy that you get when you collaborate with people who are like, oh yeah, like we're on the same wavelength, you enjoy the way that they work. But if I have to kind of put it down to like one particular type of project, right? And I joke with people, but like this is for real for me. I love the movie Clue from the 80s with Tim Curry. And if there is an anime version of that is ever made, I beg you, I will do whatever it takes. I was gonna like, please let me just audition. I swear. To me, I absolutely love ensemble comedy. When you have a perfectly put together ensemble like Kung Fu Panda, for example, right? It just works. It's just, you can have because to me there's something really cool about casting where it's like, you can have all these actors that are so talented, so hardworking, everyone's 100% deserving, but then you continue to switch out people or do these things and you realize the energy is always just changing, and that just comes down to those unique artists. And when you have the right combination, it's just like chef's kiss. Yeah.
And sometimes it takes kind of mixing people around and trying to figure it out, because some you'll be surprised.
Yeah, there's an art form to it, and then there's also a little bit of like it's kind of a magic or a little bit of a je ne sais quoi. Like you don't know what it is, but it's just when you feel it or when you see it.
But before we wrap up, I wanted to know if there was anything else you want to discuss or you wanted to shout out before we end.
Oh man! Well, first of all, sorry, it's been a pleasure to hang out with you today, dude. Thank you for having me.
It's been a pleasure talking to you, man.
Likewise. Well, I'll tell you what. I have an event coming up with some of the Windbreaker crew up in Burleson, Texas. It is going to be. I wrote down the date for myself because I tend to forget these things very easily. August 9th at Geek Out Comic Books in Burleson, Texas. We're going to be there all day. Majority of the Windbreaker season 2 cast is going to be there, and we'll be signing prints, taking photographs, and just hanging with people all day long. We'll love to see
Kiba gonna be there?
What's that?
Is Kiba gonna be there?
Oh yeah, man, absolutely.
Oh, for sure. We definitely.
I don't know where you're at, but you got to come to Burleson, Texas, man. Come on out.
I'm over here in Cincinnati, Ohio. You guys need to come over here.
Dope, very cool. We have a lot. We have an Ohio contingency actually out here in North Texas. I was gonna say there's a lot of talented VO artists that come out from your neck of the woods. I was gonna say So,
oh, okay. I did not know that. That's interesting. So that lets you Cincinnati, Ohioans know that, you can get into voice acting too. I know sometimes we think we're all far removed from actually being able to do something, but no, you can do anything.
Oh, exactly. I was gonna say it's the era of remote. I was gonna say, build your own booth, however, and just make it happen step by step.
And with that, we end today's episode. I want to thank my guests for coming on and chatting it up with me. I had a lot of fun and learned so much more about the industry of voice acting, and hopefully you listeners did too. Before we close out, I just want to allow my guest the opportunity to plug himself, basically tell the audience where they can find you.
Thank you so much, Raysean. Guys, it's been a pleasure hanging out with y'all today. My name is Eduardo Vildasol. You can find me on Instagram at Eduardo Vildasol and www.eduardovildasol.com.
All right. If you guys have any questions on this interview, or if you want to just tell him he's done great as S-Hawk in One Piece, go have all his links and stuff below. And with that, I just want to say peace.
Peace.